Welcome to Viva La Visionary, the podcast that celebrates the innovative ideas and mindsets of entrepreneurs and visionaries. Join your host, Coach Bob Schittefeld, as he dives into inspiring stories and practical insights from trailblazers who are changing the game. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned leader, this show is your source for motivation and creativity. Let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Hi there, Coach Bob here, founder of the Visionary Forum, host of Viva La Visionary, the podcast to, for, from, and about visionaries. Excited to have Heather here. Heather, how are you today?
I'm great. It's so fun to talk to you.
Yeah, so remember, this is going to be less than an hour because I know we could normally spend 4 to 6 hours together, but
We could talk esoteric bullshit all day long
we'll think we figured
and
everything
never
out.
get anything done.
We're visionaries. Interesting.
Oops.
Very cool. So, all right. Well, I start off with a simple question, Heather. Why are you on this planet?
Why am I on this planet? Well, I guess today I would say to be fully myself,
Love it.
which is really swimming upstream against the whole ecosystem I was born into as a Southern Baptist,
Oh, wow.
like pretty conservative religious kid where you didn't say anything was about yourself, but just becoming myself fully. I think, boy, is it a journey.
It sure is. That's fascinating. Yeah, a lot of people, when I encounter them, they're usually going through their entrepreneur visionary process and they're putting a business system in place and they're letting go of the vine and they're like, what do I do now? And it's like, it's not what do you do? It's who are you? And people are like, what does that even mean? So I appreciate
Totally. No, and I have not arrived.
that's number one, by the way. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for that. When did you first realize you were a visionary?
I probably didn't have that language for it, but definitely as a kid. I was, and I don't know if you've looked into or thought about much like birth order and how that, like impacts, but I was an oldest of 4 kiddos, classic big sister, bossy, but I was always the one. I have got the ideas for, let's play this, let's do this. And, at a young age, spinning up businesses that, were really just like neighborhood hobbies. But I was always the one with the idea and the one who often felt frustrated when that idea wasn't executed as it had played out in my head.
Right.
No, we were going to be the biggest, babysitting club in the country.
Right.
Like we're 12. What are we doing?
Yeah, and people are like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah, but even at a young age, like socially, I found I was the one to always have the idea to invite the friend over. Like, hey, let's have a slumber party. Let's do this. Sometimes that was, frustrating. And I'm wondering if you've experienced the same, like socially, where why am I always the one to call you? Why am I always the one to have the idea for the thing
Yes.
we're going to do? But maybe that's more like because visionaries tend to attract people who appreciate a vision.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, because even on my street, we've lived in the same street, same house for 25 years. And I've gone through different eras, but people Bob's like the mayor of the street. And like, it's kind of cool, but I don't always want to be that. But I think to answer the question, I think I feel a lot of leaders and visionaries, sometimes we like control everything, but if someone isn't driving it, I'll be the first one to jump in.
Exactly.
I like it when I don't have to drive it. And I did complain, how come I have to set up the block parties? It's like, I get to have it on the day I want it. I get to invite who I want to. And it's like, it's actually kind of cool.
I am so the same.
But also to enroll others. So that's where it's like, okay, I'm not going to do it all, but if I can get Marissa down the street and John across the street, that they'll pass out the flyers. And it's like, okay, so if it's not all me, but yeah, that's interesting. And I think when you mentioned some of the things from you bringing up, the word initiate came up for me because we definitely initiate. What about this? What about that? And again, I'm not good at the how, but I'm good at initiating the what about.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. So there can be some, it's like any superpower has a double-edged sword and kind of the kryptonite and
Totally.
sometimes feeling like, why am I always the one initiating it? But I know, it's because I wanna call the shots.
And I don't want to follow anyone else.
Right, I don't wanna follow someone so I do wanna set the day. Why do we always do this at my house? Because I control the atmosphere.
Right. And I have the drinks at home. Right. Right. And we can,
Yeah,
when they leave, I don't have to drive. Right. Awesome. So
yeah,
also your other question about the birth order, I haven't looked at that. We definitely, as we're growing our community, I am looking for data and patterns. And so I haven't looked
yeah,
at birth order. I know with my business, my first business that we grew out of control and somewhat successful, almost all of us on the leadership team were the youngest. Now that was the leadership team. That
Oh,
wasn't all visionaries.
interesting.
So right. And I felt like a lot of us, we so wanted community. We wanted to be a part of it. And a lot of us didn't feel like we had that in our families. So I
Mhm.
looked at that for visionaries and also like what's the common theme for Colby or working genius or suspend
Right,
disbelief,
right.
the four
Disc or
elements in
whatever.
astrology, because I think there's a lot of
Yes,
similarities, right?
and I
Here.
love that you're not afraid to, peek under those hoods
Right.
in various things. I find it fascinating, and who knows? Like, I'm not a statistician or whatever, a data science
Can't
guy,
even
but
say it, right.
I don't know. I like to imagine that there's some celestial pattern being weaved, and where can we measure that?
So let's go there a little bit. I think everybody has the ability just to tap into something greater than themselves. And some might call it God, some might be our mind, our heart, a spirit, whatever it may be. I find that visionaries, I think we have more access to that. I mean, that's my thought. And then, but it isn't always reality. So
Yeah,
it's interesting that again, I have this vision when I slow down and listen. It's like the visionary forum could be this, and
yeah,
then if it doesn't happen, it's like come on, and then it's not reality. But I do feel we visionaries we are tapped in a little bit more. Again, not better or worse. And again, like you said, I think it's a superpower, but also my kryptonite because I'm tapped into that and actually not making money or whatever it might be.
yeah. Uh, that's very true. I've felt that frustration. I'm a co-founder of an AI company
Yes. So
today called
about your company.
ProMode,
Yeah.
and ProMode is a disruptive technology entering the marketing space. And with any new technology or new anything, there's always an adoption curve, right? Like some
Right.
people will be early adopters, others will be laggers, and then you've got kind of the middle of the bell curve in the middle. But, as a founder in this space, we're always trying to assess, like, is the market ready for what we're doing?
Right.
Like,
Are we too far
actually.
ahead? Right.
Right, like, investors might be ready, the stock market might be ready, but are actual users ready
Mm,
for this level of, boots on the ground changes?
right.
And I try as much as I can to put that out of my mind, like, whether or not anything is ready for what I'm doing, because back to, like, why am I here? It's to be my full self.
Right. Love it.
So if I'm being my full self and that today includes charging after this new thing and introducing a new thing and helping others to understand it and grasp hold of it and benefit from it, then whether or not they understand it or want it should be fairly irrelevant to me.
Love it.
And that's so hard,
Right.
but that's what I'm working on in my own thought life and
Right.
relationship with myself.
So I love that because I've learned from one of my coaches slash healers is that I've been shouting into the chasm to say, Heather, don't you get it? And it's like,
Yeah.
maybe not everyone gets it, but instead of shouting into the chasm, what if I walk the talk? And that,
Right.
and that's
Hmm.
and that's being me. So I love that. So
Yeah.
say I'm sorry. So any comments on that? I want to ask you more about your business, but
Well, I had ChatGPT actually create like a 28-day journaling exercise for me
right,
because I'm not a good journaler. I don't do it on the regular. So I knew I needed a little hand holding if I was going to do that. And I had an assessment. It was a deep dive disc Sandler thing that I did that kind of revealed some needs that had to do with like my self view. It was really interesting. But I had ChatGPT write this journaling exercise for me, like just guided questions and thought exercises. And I think it was like the third day, the exercise was called, It is not my job to make sure people understand me.
love it. Hmm,
And that landed with me
I love it.
because it's like, that feels like that is my only job is to
Right.
make people understand me. But if I'm thinking about that
Right.
rather than being my true self, being all that I am,
Regardless of their response, right?
regardless of their response, then what happens is I end up actually self-sabotaging their understanding
Yep.
because I'm getting in my own way, stuck in my own head. Do they understand me? Do they get this? Do they see how important this is? And that energy actually repels them. I don't know.
No. I love it. I was making a note because when I'm looking for outside validation or credit, like I might help you with something. And I'm like, well, then how come you're not paying me more? Or how come you haven't referred? Or how come you didn't tell me I'm wonderful? And I'm words of affirmation as well. But
Mm.
when I'm looking outside, that is a form, I think, of Dr. Doug's interpretation of, his book Driven is imposter syndrome, that it's like, I'm
Yeah.
providing value, but I'm like, but am I providing value? And tell me about it. It's like, geez, lighten up or tell me who I am. Years ago, this is 25 years ago, a pretty successful entrepreneur, visionary said, Bob, you know what? You're kind of like that one kid's book where the bird is walking around saying, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you
Oh,
my
wow.
And that's because, again, I'm looking for
Yeah.
outside validation often. So I can appreciate that.
That's it, exactly. And something that's helping me, and this is like, I'd say in the last month, this has been like a key focus, is before I enter a conversation, a sales call, walk into a networking event, anything where I'm feeling that elevated, I want them to understand me kind of impulse, I take a beat and I ask myself, how do I want to experience this
Love it.
interaction? How
Yep.
do I want to experience this? And then I'll kind of talk to myself, I want to experience curiosity. I want
Oh,
to
that's where I was going.
experience,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want to experience connection, understanding. I want to, like just being as granular as I can with how I want to experience. I want to experience feeling relaxed in this conversation, feeling true to myself, those types of things. That's been really helpful in just turning my mind towards my experience of that interaction as opposed to something that's outside of my control.
Right. Oh, I love that. I had a great conversation with someone who knows me very well, loves me, and knows and loves this other person and connected us. And, I was like getting in and like, okay, am I going to sell them or what can I do? And so a lot of times we start our conversations in more of the linear world is, what's your expectation? And I said something like that. And then I said, you know what? My expectation is just to be in wonder. And
Yeah.
somebody had asked me years ago, what's the definition of wonderful? And I said, well, it's great. It was a wonderful day. And it's like, no, it's full of wonder. And so we had this great conversation yesterday, and all of a sudden it went in a direction I had no idea. And if I would have tried to have steered it, it wouldn't have gone there. So I love curiosity, wonder, the unknown. We've been talking more about that lately in the forum. And I used to be afraid of the unknown. I'm realizing with Jill Young's help, when she presented at the summit years ago, the Visionary Summit, she talked about maybe in the Johari window of the unknown portion could be what we're great at and love in the delegate and elevate quadrant. And it was like, ooh, that's interesting. And so instead of being afraid of the unknown to I wonder how this is going to work out. I wonder what Heather's going to talk about. I wonder what we're going to do together next, even if it's just say hi.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, that's where the magic happens. That's where you uncover things that you couldn't have planned that are often better than, what was on the docket.
Right. Well, there's two
Yeah.
words that I've been wrestling with and I'm coming to terms with, and that's to follow and or allow. So I'm, again, driving it, leading it. It doesn't always have to be the way I think it, but at least I'm initiating it, going back to that word, but then allowing the conversation, allowing God in, allowing a new opportunity, following someone else is okay. So that's
Uh-huh.
something new for me. So I want to tap into, you said your business is disruptive. So my interpretation of that is you were in, I think, advertising before and marketing and whatnot. And so now you have a new spin on how to help impact your clients and they can impact their clients, but it's faster, maybe less expensive, more fun. Does that sum it up?
Yeah. Yeah. We went to market October, and have learned a ton about what the hell we're doing. What is the key value of this platform that we built and who does it matter most to.
Right.
Kind of classic, product market fit stuff. Yeah, so the platform is doing with robots and with sophisticated AI a lot of things that were previously done by humans. So sometimes that means it's a headcount replacement. So if you've got a full team of marketers, you might find that you don't need all of those humans anymore. And it's up to the business owner. Do we want to reposition that person in the company? Every company is navigating this differently.
Right.
In this era. And we're sensitive to that. It's never my goal to fire anybody.
Right.
Just to give another way of doing something.
Right.
And then to make the marketer who is on staff, the marketing director who's running strategy, to make them more potent and to more fully see that strategy executed.
Right.
The other day, I had a great conversation with a new client marketing director, and he was telling me about some slogans he'd come up with, some campaigns he'd launched, and I could tell his energy increased, like his enthusiasm as he was talking about those creative things he has done. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's my favorite part of working in marketing as well, is when you can have those ideas. And he says, yeah, but that's only like 0.5% of my job.
Right.
The rest of my job is spent, just herding cats and answering emails and ad hoc sales requests and things like that. And he says, and then I look back over the year at my strategy compared to what we actually did, and it's like we only did 10% of it.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm excited for you in using ProMode because it's ideal. You'll be able to run your entire strategy, and then you'll find that about 50% of your job becomes the creative zone because you're able to offlift so much of that just busy work that's robot shit, as I, like to call it.
TM.
Right. TM, robot shit.
I love that. So that leads me to the next question. What do you feel is our role or your role as a visionary? So what are you responsible for as visionary?
What am I responsible for? I think assessing the market, kind of reading the tea leaves. Just had a great conversation with my business partner about this morning on our podcast. Funny enough, for us, the AI space seems like at its face a red ocean. I mean, it just seems like so noisy. There's AI companies spinning up everywhere, and there are. However, when I look with my visionary self at LinkedIn and the stock market, and I'm just looking at all these things, hearing podcasts, what I see is there's a low barrier of entry for building something with AI. A consultant could spin up an AI widget in a matter of days.
Yep.
There's a low barrier of entry. It's easier than ever to start these companies, but there was an MIT study that came out yesterday, I believe, reporting that 95% of AI deployments are failed within companies today. And so we did a kind of deep dive on that. So I don't know. I look at the red ocean that might otherwise deter someone in my position as an AI founder, and I say there's more to the story. It's not as red as it seems because I'm talking to business owners all the time who are starving for what we have.
Yep.
Every single day. So if I didn't have that visionary mindset, I think I would more easily be discouraged by all the chatter that is in the space.
Right.
But I'm just not, because my gut says it's a lot of noise. It's going to go away pretty quick. They're going to dry up. They're not solving real problems in a way that's, duplicatable. They're not doing good sales and marketing, and some will, some will not. But all in all, I see there's plenty of room for any decent solution in this space. Anything that can predictably deliver a 10x outcome is fine.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's probably how I would apply the visionary
to that. Yeah, and I'm realizing and you said, kind of creative destruction or disruption. I think that's one of our roles. And it's interesting because I've been talking about the journey of the visionary or entrepreneur, and that's a startup, becoming a business, the life of the leader, and then scale, sell, or how do we want to end up? And so, yes, we're visionaries. And so we were kind of coming up with a new word for that. And we've come up with evolutionary entrepreneurs. And so that's evolving. And yet I'm like, well, no, I'm revolutionary. And that's when we hit the ceiling of complexity, we need that disruption. And then I realized I've been living my life in the revolution. I'm a grandchild of the revolution, and yet I blow shit up when it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Allow myself, and again, to the words we said earlier, to follow, and I'll just allow. I mean, I have the book and all the training things, and I'm off doing something else. And I had a great friend and a past client go, why do you keep inventing new shit? You have so much good stuff. And it's like, because I'm wired to disrupt. But that's
Right.
just a lot of work. So I'm realizing, there's time and a place for it. So when we talk about the roles and responsibility, I think it is to evolve and be revolution. And also, and then we talked about before, but I think play and fun is a role that I'm learning. If I'm not having fun, I'm not good for anyone at home or at work. So that's interesting, but cool. So
Yeah.
what's one thing that you've learned, whenever it might be, that has helped you in the trajectory of your life, whether it be in business or professionally as a visionary, that is like, okay, what's one piece of advice or experience share you would have for visionaries to say, when I learned this or when I started doing that, what would that be? What's a big shift for you at some point in your life as a visionary?
Yeah. It would be, it's not that serious.
Oh,
Nothing we are doing matters
right.
that much.
I love it.
Except for, and
Yeah.
relationships,
Yeah.
your family, your health. This business stuff, it is great. It is fun. It can be fun. It can be stressful. In 100 years, it's just a fart in the wind.
Right. Yep. I love it.
Just lighten up. Like we had a little disagreement in the ranks yesterday, my business partner and I. He is masterful at what he does. He is I would say he's a rare person who can truly step in and out of integrator visionary, like in a really interesting way. He's an inventor, truly. I almost feel like that should be a third category. Maybe, I don't know.
I agree.
But he's brilliant. I just can't even overstate that. But he likes to do things right, like process, and we need documentation, and we need this and that. And I wanted to kick off some big marketing things for us, turn up the dial, like redo the website, because it does need to happen. I'm wanting to just go.
Right.
And he's like, no, we're not ready for that. We have to do this and this and this. And I'm just like, kill me now.
Right.
And it just became clear, like, he wants to do shit right. I want to do shit right now.
Right. I love it.
And the under sort of current to that disagreement was, I think, I just approach all of the things we're doing with less fear of breaking it. So what? We launch a website nobody likes. Who cares?
Right.
We're not going to jail. Nobody's going to suffer here. We'll just redo it again. We've launched content that's in the wrong direction. We're talking to the wrong audience. So what? We change it on a dime. Who cares? Not saying I don't put care into my work. I work based on the information I have and the inspiration I have at the time, which is subject to change. You're like, yeah, duh. How else would a person ever do anything? But he likes to be more measured and feels a need for more data and a little more, probably, I don't even want to say fear, but a little more of the mindset that it could be broken and that could be bad.
Right.
And I'm just like, companies make bad decisions all the time. Huge companies who make billions of dollars make bad decisions all the time.
Right.
But I do really like Jeff Bezos has a famous sort of philosophy where he talks about the one-way decisions and the two-way decisions, or the one-way door and the two-way door. And the two-way door are decisions you can make and then unmake with little consequence. Like, we try this, it doesn't work, we back right out. Right. Who cares? Those decisions, he says, make them as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Get in, figure it out, get out if it doesn't work. And then the one-way decisions, obviously, like entering into a business partnership or a marriage, things that are very hard to back your way out of, deliberate a bit more.
Right. I love that. And I think that's the art and the science of a visionary and integrator that, like you said, you want it right now, he wants it right. But if we only do this or only do that, it's not going to work. So it is the art and the
True.
science of what can we try. And I know with some of the people I work with or have worked with, I'm like, what if it could do this? And then it's like, yeah, but what if it doesn't do that? And then we do nothing. I'm like, okay, like you said, let's try it.
Yeah.
Most of my ideas aren't going to work, but it's usually not the idea that we have. It's the next generation of it. Dan
Mm-hmm.
Sullivan calls that a strategic byproduct. It's not the
Yeah,
idea that
yeah.
usually works. It's the next iteration of that. But if we don't do this, how do we get to that?
Right. The next iteration of that, or something you figured out in the doing of it that
Right.
you never would have known.
Right.
And you stumble into happy accidents. And I like people who are true integrators or super analytical, they have a really hard time with that kind of approach. You
Right.
know, what do you mean we're going to count on getting lucky? It's like, no, we're not going to count on getting lucky. I'm just saying if we turn over enough rocks, we're going to find a worm.
Yep. And we don't need that many worms. I mean, right.
And we don't need that many worms because if you find one, there's probably a whole lot of them
Right.
right there.
Love it. So what's one thing you're working on now, an opportunity that is keeping you up at night that you're wrestling with?
Hmm.
It could be personally, professionally, it could be know thyself, it could be whatever. I mean, it's
Wrestling with. Okay, I'll bring this up. I'm actually really curious to see what you have to say into it. So I have an Achilles heel that I don't think you know about, and you will probably be surprised when I tell you. I have an intense physiological reaction of fear to public speaking.
Interesting.
Like on a stage with a microphone, debilitating. And it is something I am hell-bent on fixing. I'm exploring some things. I'm curious if this self-view work that I'm doing will help, because I've had some feedback from a few folks that I trust who have kind of said that that's probably the root of it, because it hasn't been there forever. I would
Right.
say it's the last five years, really. Like as my professional life has accelerated, yeah, that fear of public speaking only has gotten worse.
Right. So I've got several comments. So first of
Yeah.
all, have you ever failed when you spoke?
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
like
Do other
bad.
people think you failed or you think you did?
I think other people thought I failed.
Okay. I appreciate that. I just know, like, for me, I don't like to prepare for it. I want to, I want to get to 100 points across. And if I forget two of them, I think I failed. But it's like, but I got 30 points across that people like. And I was at a regional conference for entrepreneurs. Boy, this is probably 15 years ago. And it was my target market. I was sitting next to the gal who organized all the content and the speakers. And I said, I would really like to speak at one of these. She's like, can you do tomorrow at 9:00? And I'm like, and so then all of a sudden you're here, I'm having a drink and having fun. And so I went back to my room and I'm like, why the fuck do I do this to myself? But here I was asking for it and
You
literally,
visionaried too hard.
right. And so I'm like, why? I'm never going to speak again. I'm just like, because it's not worth the stress and the drama. And then I realized that I actually thrive with that last minute, questioning and, at least saying, what are the couple topics that I want to get across? And then just let it flow. And so I flipped it from stress to just anxiousness, because I'm anxious to provide value. I'm anxious to look good. I'm anxious to have impact. And so to not over rehearse, but I just think through, like, what are the 3 ahas that I want to get across to this audience? And what are 3 things that I can leave them with that if they don't have to reach out to me, and then I just have fun with it. And so that's me. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but you're so engaging, so intelligent. I think you'd be great at it, and I'm happy to talk more about that separately. I may not have answers, but
Yeah, that's why it's so frustrating, because it's so like in a recent assessment, it was probably this, it might have been the same. I can't remember if it was Culture Index or the Sandler disc. We recently did both of them, and
yeah.
but one of them was like, her top skill is public speaking. And I'm like, shut up. No, it's not.
Huh.
And I hate this paper for saying it, because
Right.
it is frustrating. But I do, in a way, I feel like it's my body telling me, because it's very, again, physiological.
Yeah.
Like I'll shake out of my heels, man.
Huh.
It is bad. Voice shakes. I'm very disconnected from my body when I am speaking. Like, it's just terrible,
Well, it's
terrifying.
going back to your why, I think ties into that, by the way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
So, well, we're going to have separate conversations on that. I've got some input for you. So the last
Yeah.
question I have for you, and then I'm open to other questions you have or statements or comments for the greater good with visionaries. But as you know, our rally cry at the Visionary Forum is Viva La Visionary, the name of the podcast. So what does Viva La Visionary mean to you?
I guess it's like permission to cast a vision, permission to vision.
No, appreciate that. Right. And to own
Yeah.
vision, right. I mean, it's, yeah, because I'm like, well, maybe it's this. Well, no, this is the vision I have. Right. So that's interesting. I love
Yeah.
it.
Go forth and vision.
Right. Long live the visionary. And again, a lot of times with a lot of the processes out there, I feel we visionaries get blamed for stuff. I know I have in the past where it's like, Bob, stop the crazy ideas. And literally in Traction, the book, the word squirrel comes up a lot. That came from one of my employees, 22 years ago. It's like, Bob's fun to work with, but he chases a lot of squirrels. And so it was like, no, it's process and stop dreaming and stop, and it was like, so I shut up. And then they lost their visionary. And again, it's the art and the science. It's not just structure and process. It's also intuition and gut and creativity. And it's the and. So, but celebrate who we are is how we came up with it. But yeah, no, it's permission to share the vision, permission to allow the vision.
It is. But I mean, I've worked for a squirrel before, and that might be a good question for you. And I have thoughts on it as well. But where do you draw the line between squirrel and visionary? Because I'll tell you, as someone who's worked for someone who's constantly throwing net new stuff, it can feel like shiny object syndrome, like playing whack-a-mole, not a lot of direction. How do you delineate like shiny object syndrome, constant chaos, and casting a vision?
So for me, it's having a business structure, something like EOS, that this is what we've agreed as a leadership team. And a caveat to that is sometimes I'm like, well, what if we do this? And they say no, then I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do whatever. So it's a vision that I'm a part of. And so that's our 10-year and our 3-year and our 1-year and our quarterly. And then I used to walk out there and go, okay, whatever, we're going to go do this. And that's not the right answer. So I've been talking about, I need to play and I need to try things, as you're talking, alluding to. And so to literally have a separate VTO, vision traction organizer. So a separate vision for a project or a new service or whatever, and maybe even have a separate accountability chart. And so, and you mentioned that your partner is an inventor. And so again, and even in Working Genius, I'm an inventor and a galvanizer, probably not a surprise. So I need to invent and galvanize, but to allow my team, and what I've done in the past is, well, I'll just borrow this person and I'll just do this. And then I screw up our day-to-day. And the day-to-day is that evolution and letting it go. As long as it's making money and providing value and people are happy, that's great. But I need to go do something else. And so for me to go try something, and then to say, okay, I'm only going to spend 6 months on it and we're only going to spend 50 grand and I'm either going to borrow these people or hire these people. But at some point we're going to make a decision whether it makes sense or not. What I've also done is drawn people away and not just spend 50 grand in 6 months. I've spent 250 grand in 3 years, so I think it's having a plan, but allowing me as the visionary to play without screwing up the day to day. Because I'm just like, well, it shouldn't be that hard. Heather can do 2 jobs at once and still be sane. And that's not the case. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. I think it's an and where allowing me to play either in my business or to try other stuff. So when I had my distribution business and I was creating iMatter, I was all excited about it. And my integrator at the time said, well, it's kind of like you're having an affair on us, that you're excited about this new shiny thing and not about us. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then I shut down my excitement. And so they lost me there and I lost my other opportunities. So again, it's an art and a science, and having a great integrator that I can talk to say, what if we start this whole new nonprofit? And it's like, that's awesome, and celebrate it, to say, okay, how is that going to affect what we're doing now? And if it's worthwhile, so again, to me, it's almost a separate project, a separate accountability chart with some parameters. that if we don't succeed at some point, we gotta pull the chute. So I don't know if I
Yeah.
answered your question, but other thoughts you have, or
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think what I would like to be is like a stable visionary.
evolutionary.
Yeah, like, hey, we're charging into the revolution. We're
Right.
disruptive, but we're not erratic. We're not on fire,
Right.
because one is fueled by fear and one is fueled by love.
Right.
And kind of aiming to be fueled by love, like having a stable vision where elements can change. And to me, it's so natural knowing like when the tactics should change based on the new information. Like, of course, we're not doing that anymore. Didn't you read the wind like I did? So the ability and, tuned inness to understand you do have to communicate that to your team. Like, hey, I'm sensing this. Are we on board with a little pivot? It's the same vision,
Right.
just adjusting the sails a bit. But you have to communicate that and like resell the vision each time those pivots happen, ensuring them the course is the same. We're just getting there a little different way. And here's why. Meeting all the personality types where they may or may not be. The diplomat, which I'm also very diplomatic, which helps. Yeah. I
And I
don't know if
think it's
that
taking
answered your
time.
question.
Yeah, and I think it's taking time because I'm like, okay, we're going here, and people are like, well, hold on, and then we're
Yeah,
going here.
totally.
So we've just made a couple of big pivots lately, and people like, no, I don't like that. And I slowed down and I listened to their fears and said, okay, this, and again, it helps. I have an integrator now, which I've vetted with her to say, here's what I want to do. And she's like, okay, take a deep breath and big picture. What are we talking about? Seats that we're looking for. And what do you expect? And then is this person right? I'm just like, I want to hire this person today.
Mm-hmm.
So to have, and then one of my employees is like, why do we keep changing? And when I listened, and she's like, well, what about this? And what does our integrator think? I'm like, she came up with a plan. So again, diplomat's an interesting, I used to rush so fast that I'm like, if they can't keep up, screw them. And that's not the right
Mm-hmm.
answer. I've got a lot of loyal people that if I engage them and I listen, even just to get like, and it's even the chatter in their head to say, is Bob going to leave me behind? And it's like, no, thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for this. And here's where sometimes a lot of leaders are afraid to have open and honest feedback to say, you're doing this, you don't like it, and you're not good at it. And so, yeah, we are bringing someone in. Here's what I feel you're great at, and here's an opportunity. And if you're not interested, okay, fine. But rather than just telling people and running, it's that, and I don't know if it's as I'm aging, I'm slowing down a little. And oh my gosh, I'm so much faster and efficient when I slow down, which makes no sense.
It's like the Navy SEAL mantra is slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right. No, I love that. Very interesting. So I love the diplomat. I had one other thought that came up when you said that. I forget what it was now, but it's, not looking for outside validation, being me, as you mentioned, and listening and just slowing down and not trying to prove myself for things outside of myself. And when my consciousness and emotions are elevated, it all works, and when I'm in fear and questioning, it doesn't work. So it's interesting.
So true.
So any other questions or comments that you want to share before we wrap?
Kind of a fun question, I guess. If you had to pick one famous favorite visionary, you can't say Jesus. That's too.
I wasn't,
It's
but
a
that's
gimme.
right. Huh. All right. So, I mean, I'm really intrigued by Steve Jobs, but he was an ass. But just absolute commitment and faith and dedication to his vision. And it's not just the technology, it's the look and the aesthetics. It is amazing. I'm addicted to this, and that's not a great thing. So I guess two come to mind. One is Pat McAfee. He was a punter, a rebel, so football player. And then he started his own podcast with a couple of his high school buddies, and they just talk sports. And he's just different and a little rough around the edges, but he does his research and everything. And so then ESPN said, well, we'll keep, and I don't know the whole story, but yeah, you can do this, but you got to follow our rules. And he's like, no, this is who we are. And ESPN bent the rules for them. And he just signed a $200 million contract or whatever. So part of their value is they bomb into events, but now they can take the jet, and he's just they're just having so much fun. And he was like, I feel guilty that we get to do this. And thank you for watching. He's one that comes to mind. And then a few years ago, a group of guys, again, buddies, so I can listen to the pattern here. A Dude Perfect. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
And my son would watch it, and he and I would watch it, and we're just like, how cool. These dudes just play games and they record it and people pay them to do it. So again, I think it's play, it's fun, it's around their passion, and they're entertaining. So those are my two that come to mind without a lot of thought, but I like them.
Very cool.
How about you?
I'd say Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx,
Right.
comes to mind. She just has a really cool launch story where she had nothing. She had like $5,000,
Right.
launched this brand, did some really creative guerrilla marketing. Like you probably don't know the Spanx story because you probably don't. I don't know. You might wear Spanx, but
I
maybe
don't
not.
wear them. I know a little bit about the story.
Yeah, well, she like got, I think, Bloomingdale's or something to put a few products in store, and she'd used her life savings to hire a factory to create these like shapewear garments. Had this store put it on the shelf, like a very small number of pieces, and then she used the rest of the money she had to give to her friends and family to go buy those products in the store, and did that a few times. I think probably had some friends chip in as well, but just would sell out the locations to the point where they were like, well, we need a bigger order. And that kind of snowballed. And I don't know if there's other elements there that were helpful to her that might be not part of the public story, but I like to believe that she did it in that way, and extremely successful, global brand now. Yeah, I think she's inspirational. Steve Jobs is another one I would agree with. Maybe not to copy as a blueprint, but certainly, I don't know, just the laser focus. Talk about disruptive technology.
And he had a crazy vision that didn't really make sense. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, when texting came out, I thought it was a fad. And I was like 16.
Right.
So I should have been all excited about it. But my friends, I would text and I'm like, why don't you just call me? This is dumb. Texting is a fad. And it wasn't until several years later that I'm like, I guess we're texting now.
Right. That's interesting. Well, you've inspired me. I'm going to go watch the Steve Jobs movie again. And I was at a group of business coaches, and someone showed a clip from the Steve Jobs movie with Ashton Kutcher, I think, played Steve Jobs. And at the end, they were talking about, visionaries are assholes and this. I'm like, okay, hold on. It's like, we're not all assholes. And I find most of us actually deeply care about people and for people, but we don't always know how to do it. And we're so driven on the vision that sometimes we lose that. And so that was part of my inspiration to say, you know what, we get a bad rap, and that's Viva La Visionary and creating the forum and the community that it's like, I'm either not crazy or I'm crazy, but I'm hanging out with other crazy people and we're having a ball and making a difference in the world.
Yeah. I love that you do it. I love that, there is a visionary forum, in the EOS space. There's so much about the business process, and it's all very good. I've worked in EOS companies. As we grow, we'll be implementing those processes as well. But there was sort of this, I don't know, like black box and then visionaries.
Right.
And for you to put some structure around that, some language, shared sort of mental model, if you will, among visionaries, so we can talk about it, we can address challenges, see opportunities, hold each other accountable. It's necessary.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And again, that's a vision I've had for a while that I've debated because it hasn't grown as fast as I want financially. I know the impact has been amazing for me and for others, but it's like, as I have spent more time checking in with my head, my heart, and God, whatever is great, the universe, it's like, this is what I'm here to do. So it's like, don't give up. So even to be inspired by us talking about Steve Jobs, to say, okay, it may not make sense in what you said, looking for outside validation, just to walk the talk. Because when I'm in the business and not being a visionary, I hate it. And so that's not the energy so to stay in that visionary mold and So that's great. I appreciate you and all of your wisdom and love having you in the forum and love mainly having you as a friend. And again, working with you, I'm excited to work with you more because you have, again, a great vision. And I think your target market, I know you already know this, but is visionaries because it's like, we get what you're talking about. But when I take it to my team or other people, they're like, well, no, we do it this way. I'm like, yeah, but if they can do it faster and quicker, I hate waiting 90 days for feedback. How about if we get it in, 4 minutes?
Right.
So keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bob.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to Viva La Visionary. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration in our guest stories. If you loved what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and share the podcast with fellow dreamers and doers. Join us next time as we continue to explore the limitless possibilities of visionary thinking. Until then, keep dreaming big and taking action. Your vision matters.